Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. I am happy to be able to see faces of our friends and colleagues again this evening. Certainly, this will be a continuation of our third class, and this is the fourth class. Our subject, as we are all aware, what we call Islamic perspective of sociology, some reflections. Got certain understanding that we are here only for 7 hours throughout 7 weeks, and certainly we cannot be deep in our analysis of an issue. However, I hope by the end of our term or lecture, we will be able to grab some of the important issues in trying to understand what do we mean by Islamic perspective of sociology, and normally in my case and also in anthropology. Right, I will share with you the slide now. So we'll be guided by this slide throughout, inshallah. I hope tonight will be also a night where we need to have some kind of interaction where there is no force or there is no obligation on your part to respond, but I would expect some responses also voluntarily on the question that I would like to share with you. Yes, this is class number 4. Today is 1st July. Already half year has gone. So very, very fast. We have another 6 months to go. In Malaysia, we 9 p.m. now. And I simply put here for my own purpose of recalling later on that this is the link that I used to communicate with my colleagues. Yes, I have already welcomed you, and I would like to thank everyone and also the organizer for having trust in me to conduct. Will also include some references to the Quranic verses. As we all know, the Quran is the book of guidance, and therefore there is always a need for us to be guided by the Quran. And one way of being guided by this holy book is by referring to the relevant verses that can inspire us on the issue that we are dealing with. For this evening or tonight, I am sharing with you 3 verses from Surah Al-Dhariyat. That is the 51st surah. That is verse number 20. وَفِي الْأَرْضِ آيَاتٌ لِلْمُوقِنِينَ. And this one is, I have made a screenshot from words are there also. And on earth there are signs of God's existence visible to all who are endowed with inner certainty. So yaqeen is inner certainty. So those with yaqeen will certainly see God from the creation. So this is the seeing by heart. And the next or subsequent verse reads, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَفَلَا تُبَصِرُونَ. Just as there are signs thereof within your own self, can you not see them see? So after mentioning the earth, God or Allah mentions us. So we need to look into ourselves when we study ourselves through various ways, including scientific ways of trying to understand humans, to see our connection to the broader context. And that context is not only the other creatures, but also the creator of the creatures. So I think this provides some basis for us to speak of understanding society beyond what can be seen by naked eyes. And then, وَفِي السَّمَاءِ رِزْقُكُمْ وَمَا تُوعَدُونَ. And in heaven is the source of your sustenance on earth and of all that you are promised for your life after death. So I'm very touched by these three verses because the first one uh, touches on earth. Earth, the place where we are living, And then who are living on earth? Us. So beneath us or on earth, and then ourselves. And then above us is a sama. So when Allah mentions these three realities, that should strike us very much in terms of our effort to make sure that we connect ourselves, not only our connection with group of people as we do in sociology. A group of people, they are of the same type of creature, humans. But we need to also see or understand the existence of social collectivity, that is society, in relation to who makes this human collectivity exist. And that will refer straight away to the creator, that is Allah. So we will talk more about this from Islamic perspective of anything that we are going to talk about later on under how. So that much I want to say about opening. Revision I will go through very quickly because I want to focus on today's lesson. Continuation of our last issue, and also if we have time to touch on the new topic. For revision, I hope you are still aware that we are now dealing with the first question. We should be able to keep in our mind that basically we are talking about three questions that we have to deal with in trying to understand Islamic perspective of sociology. The three big questions are why, what, and how. I start with what first, followed by why, and then how. But for our purpose here, I simply started with why, and we are on the why. So this evening, after finishing our discussion on why, we will move on to also touch on the what question, meaning that what is Islamic perspective of sociology. So, of course, the question why is it relevant? Why is it necessary? Why is Islamic perspective of sociology important? We are looking for reason, and we have already mentioned that there are so many reasons, but this reason can be categorized under three major categories. One is the reasons that are related to modern sociology. There are reasons which are related to Islam. There are reasons reasons connected to the first one, that is modern sociology. So for tonight or this evening, we are going to continue from there. In fact, when we look at the reasons related to Islam, we already started by mentioning the first reason. So this evening is basically continuation from that point. So therefore, today's lesson, as I did mention earlier, the first topic that we have been dealing with, why Islamic perspective. So we want to look at the other reasons that are connected to Islam. After that, we will touch on new topic, that is, what is Islamic perspective of sociology. And feedbacks that you have given, if possible or where necessary, I will incorporate what you would like to gain from this lecture, even if it is not there in the course outline. Now, back to the second category of reasons, that is to justify the need for having Islamic perspective of sociology. There is reasons related to Islam. So within that, I have created three subcategories. Number one is the reason that is related directly to Islam as a way of life, as an ideology, as a religion. Number two, the reason that is more concerned with Muslim or Muslims, not has something to do with Islamic tradition, or particularly Islamic intellectual tradition. So let us look at what I did mention in the last class, the reason that was connected to Islam. I consider that to be reason number one. I think I don't need to repeat fully here, but just want to highlight certain ideas that Islam, being a comprehensive way of life, certainly covers all aspects, and therefore talking about knowledge is not alien in Islam. In fact, in Islam or in the Quran, there are so many places which stress very much on the not only importance of knowledge, but if we look further, it defines also the horizon of aspects that explain the nature of knowledge in Islam. Therefore, with that ground, it is only logical for us to perceive anything, including society, in our case, and try to deal with that from the standpoint of Islam, particularly from the standpoint of Islamic worldview. We will come to Islamic worldview, the importance of Islamic worldview as part of the important component of Islamic framework for Islamic perspective. So even tonight, we are going to also have some discussion on what we understand by Islamic. So that is the first reason. The reason that has something to do with Islam as a system of life or as a comprehensive. Stop at that point. We ended there on 24th of June. So now we are continuing from that point. Now, looking at reason number two, as I said, reason number two is more concerned with Muslim Ummah. It has been discussed a lot in literature, and one word that perhaps I can use here is the sorry state of the Ummah today. I will clarify what does it mean, but basically there are other terms which have been used to describe the condition of the Ummah nowadays. One of the terms is backwardness or underdevelopment. Underdevelopment, meaning that Muslims in contemporary time are not advanced than others. They are left behind, in other words, in almost all aspects of life. So, contemporary Muslim scholars, so this is wrong, let me correct here before anything. So, contemporary Muslim scholar, so now I cannot say how to, okay. Right. Contemporary Muslim scholars, thinkers, and leaders have concluded, among others, that the current underdevelopment of the Muslim Ummah is due mainly to Muslims' way of thinking, which has influenced. That one also is wrong. Instead of this is spelling. So let me correct here. Any mistakes in my presentation, please let me know either verbally, or you can also send your message through chat message facility. So the main factor is intellectual rather than anything else. So I think this refers particularly in a series of Muslim what they call this discussions, especially the one that was held in Mecca in 1977, the First World Conference or First World Conference on Muslim Education. So part of their thinking has to do with their understanding of religion and concept of knowledge. The deliberation on that particular point among the scholars have also included that they others are not that in line with what is expected by religion, and therefore this might have contributed to the way they are dealing with the world today, and this is also part of the reason. Therefore, addressing issues like this, issue of knowledge, issue of science, issue of education, from a proper Islamic perspective is crucial. So the importance of dealing with any issue, including understanding society from the points of view of this religion, Islam, is therefore not only relevant but also crucial, important, right? Now, that is reason number two. This one, if you would like to, for example, here, I can highlight some of. If you cannot see that, you. In this century, no other nation has been subjected to comparable defeat or humiliation. Muslims were defeated, massacred, robbed of their land and wealth, of their life and hope. They were double-crossed, colonized, and exploited, proselytized, and forcefully or bribefully converted to other faiths. And they were secularized, westernized, and de-Islamized by internal and external agents of their enemies. All this happened in practically every country and corner of the Muslim world. So you can read this later on. But what I would like to highlight here is that one example of the concern of Muslim leaders, Muslim thinkers about the current state of Muslim Ummah. So you can find, of course, and any other sources, but what I'm quoting here is one of them. Now, reason number 3 why we need to talk about Islamic perspective of sociology or Islamic perspective of understanding society has something to do with the Muslim heritage, Muslim tradition, particularly Muslim intellectual tradition. Because as we all know, historically, Muslims, when they were equipped with Islam, they were able to develop and offer to the world an unprecedented civilization, the civilization that gave mercies to and scholars as well as sciences emerged during those glorious civilizational periods due to Muslims' devotion to knowledge and science. So here perhaps if you discard, maybe depending on what you want to look at it as a singular or plural, but now maybe we can just lump together the different periods in Islamic civilization as one period, or you can also see or say that there are a number of periods within that civilization or Islamic civilization. However, after the decline of Muslim civilization, the Ummah has never revived to the expected level. So what goes wrong with Muslim intellectual life today? So relooking into knowledge as desired by Islamic religion in the current here I use the term by Roger Garaudy to transmit the flames of fires of our ancestors. So when Roger Garaudy explained how we should benefit from the past tradition, past heritage, it is not by emulating them physically or uncritically, but what he has mentioned is that more or less, correct me if I'm wrong, he says like this: to be faithful to our ancestors is not to preserve the ashes of their fire, but to transmit its flame, meaning that the flames of the fires. So that gives us principle as to how we should be inspired by the development and achievements of the forefathers. Our ability to benefit in terms of its spirit, in terms of its principles, and in terms of its motivation, the motivation that we can derive from civilization, so that we will be able to also further develop the civilization. So I think these are the three reasons that are related to Islam. One is the Islamic system of life itself. The second is to Muslim Ummah, and the third one is Muslim intellectual tradition. So with this, I hope we can conclude some reflections on the reasons why we need Islamic perspective of sociology. Of course, we have the third category, other reasons, but as I said, we don't really have time to deal. When you have your ample time later on, you can explore on your own in order to know what are the other reasons which demands that we perceive, look, and understand things, including understanding society from religious or Islamic religious perspective. So that is done. That is the first part of our lecture or class for this evening. As I have shown you earlier on, we have two parts. The first one is to continue discussing or mentioning the reasons why we need Islamic perspective, and the second one is the new topic, that is what is Islamic perspective of sociology. Proceed with this new topic. We have only three questions. One is why, second is what, and the next or subsequent three classes will be dealing with how. So before we leave our discussion dealing with why, is there anything that you would like to raise here that is related to the topic? No?
Not yet, bro.
Not yet. Okay. Good. We can continue. So maybe after we have finished our presentation tonight, then we can open for that. So the new topic is what is Islamic perspective of sociology? Now, when I have 28 hours to deal with, I have I need to adopt quite a different approach. The easiest way to understand this is by defining what we mean by Islamic perspective of sociology. There are many ways how we can come up with definition, and what I taught my students, not only giving them the definition, but I train them how to come up with definition. So for me, teaching them the skills of coming up with definition is more important than the definition itself. Because by having that skills of defining, they can define anything by using the same skill, approach, or way of doing it. But however, in our class, I simply summarize all this. There are three important terms or words in our the word Islamic, the word perspective, and the word sociology. So here is where perhaps if you would like to engage in our discussion this evening, you can contribute in that way. So actually the word, let us look at the word Islamic. Islamic. Now actually there are so many issues that we can select and then discuss. But in our context, we do not want to have so many issues, otherwise we cannot finish. But just one question out of this. Of course, I can ask you, what is Islamic to you? But that will give us that will take us time also. But I pose one question. What makes things Islamic? So we want to make things Islamic. So maybe any response from you?
Can raise hand if brother want to respond.
Yes, you can raise your hand, and then
our favorite Imam Zain from Accra.
Oh, very good. So let us try to take their points here.
Imam, go ahead.
Yes. Alaikum, Prof. How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah. Nice to hear you again.
Thank you, sir. Yes, we say something is Islamic if it is according to the Quran and Sunnah. Anything that is according to the Quran and Sunnah, we say it's Islamic, sir.
Yeah.
Very good. Let me write so that you can see. Can you see?
Okay, yeah, we see. Yeah. How about Brother Salman Akram? I have Brother Ali also there. Salman, go ahead.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. I also want to share the same thing what that brother Imam said, that it's about way of Quran and Sunnah.
Okay. So I take that as a reiteration or agreement to what our Imam has mentioned. Any other input other than this one?
Brother Aliyu, Al-Haji.
Yeah.
Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullah.
Jazakumullah. When we say something Islamic, it means it conforms to the dictates of the Sharia.
Okay.
Brother
Yeah.
Nura Muhammad. Then Brother Taufik.
MashaAllah, I like this very much. I mean, very active participation. Yes. Any more?
Brother Taufik.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, thank you, Prof. Anything that follows the principles and teachings of Islam, the principles and teachings of Islam.
Brother Al-Hassan.
Assalamu
Salam.
alaikum. Islamic way of doing things. Hello.
Yeah.
No, assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
This Brother Nura, Nura Muhammad.
Yeah, it's Nura Muhammad, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We say something is Islamic when it conforms to the practice of the Hadith and the Quran, or when in performing or doing it, it is the rules of the Hadith and Quran were followed in doing it, whatever it is.
Okay.
We also have from the chat, Prof.
Yeah, okay. So never mind. We'll not take all, but I just want to generate some discussion so that we can see some responses. And from the few responses, we can add later on, inshallah. Maybe we need one more only verbally.
Say from Sister Hadija, is it halal, therefore rewarded by Allah?
Okay.
Brother Nuruddin, based on the Tawhid principle, worldview of Islam. The Faisal, following the reference sources of the Quran and Sunnah. The Fatima, Nubuwah. And Brother Ja'far, Islamic is about how we should act, behave, and practice through the teaching of our Quran and Sunnah.
Okay.
And Brother Asadul Lahil. Really speaking, according to the Quran and Sunnah, broadly speaking, something is based on principle derived from Khairul Qurun. And then Sa'adiyat, something is Islamic when it does not contradict Quran and Sunnah. Okay, that's nice.
It does not?
Does not contradict Quran and Sunnah. Something
Okay.
is Islamic when it does not contradict Quran and Sunnah.
Okay, thank you very much. I think enough for that. For this one, for the purpose of sharing your views and initial ideas that you have about being Islamic. Naturally, I really need this one because later on, when we talk about what, you will see. Even if we, I mean, let's say, let us look at this one. What you have given. Maybe I can make it big. Now, any of you who do not agree with any of these statements? Forward. Enough.
The last point, when it doesn't contradict Yes, brother.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it doesn't. Yes. Thank you very much, brother. It does not. Yes. So this is, you will see later on, what I'm saying to you, even among ourselves, when we talk about Islamic, what we have in our mind is already unified. It is already one. We are sharing the shared perspective. The shared perspective. But later on, when we talk about Islamic perspective, is it only the shared perspective or the perspectives that might also be added and become so many perspectives? So what we share is this, but what may vary later on, we will see what are the factors which have contributed to the variation in the perspectives among Muslims. So, of course, very quick, the word perspective. What is perspective? Again, maybe those who would like to contribute. What is perspective?
Ask brother Said again.
Yeah.
The Imam.
Yes, Prof. I'm back again. Yes, Prof.
One word, yes.
Prof. Yes, I'm back again. Yeah.
Oh, very good. Very good.
Yes. Yes. So my perspective is my my worldview about something. What I my worldview about it.
Okay. Next.
Khadija, can unmute yourself. We have brother Idris also.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum ya Ustaz.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Prof, for this wonderful presentation. Perspective is the personal understanding, and the way we see it. The way we see it, personal understanding based on the way we see it.
And we have brother Amir Faikal. My limited understanding of the object in study based upon accepted terms compatible to my worldview. That's what perspective.
Also the worldview there, so we can share with our Imam. Any other?
Oh, from Brother Ghani perspective, with our altitude towards something or attitude towards something. We have, let's see, Brother Abdullah Ibrahim from Cuba. Please unmute yourself, brother.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Go ahead, Brother Abdullah.
You want to contribute? Yes. What is alternative word for perspective?
Oh, okay, the line's missing.
Okay, never mind. We'll come to this later on because we are running out of time. But I just want to come to the end of that later on. So naturally, perspective is not, even though there are three keywords of perspective, is not something very crucial here. But we look at sociology because we want to see what we understand by sociology. So here, I don't want you to contribute, even though I have reserved this for your contribution because we have practically about 7 more minutes. But I will take this from your input based on what you understand through the survey or questionnaire that I posted earlier on. Because I want to finish tonight's business by reaching certain point. Now, so for that, I just give you what is meant. For basically, when we say sociology, it is only a term that is used in. Of course, now it becomes English term, originally from a combination of Greek and terms and so on, social and logos. That one is detail on that. But basically, when we use the word sociology, it is none other than an attempt at trying to understand human society, knowledge of human society. That human society, of course, in maybe human collectivity, maybe men in groups, things like that. So that part, human society is described or is explained by using different terms. It's okay, but basically this is the basic definition. Sociology tries to explain how membership in social groups. So we are not studying man as an individual, but we are studying man in connection with other men. Yeah. So I just take from Google image here. So I don't have a reference, but I can give you what I call this, the link later on. Sociology tries to explain how membership in social group, large and small, affects human behavior than people in other groups. So the current definition of sociology seems to have focused on the human behavior, the behavior of human in society, and how they are interacting with other people, and what are the implications of this interaction on human being. So this is basically the model. But if you look at many definitions, you will find there are so many definitions. I mean, academically speaking, of course, I do not want to bother you with all these academic definitions, but what I want to highlight that when the word society is mentioned, it is described in many ways. For example, here, sociology is the study of society, very straightforward. Sociology is the objective study of human behavior. So here, human behavior in place of society. In other definition, scientific study, instead of objective study, scientific study of human society. Difference from the first one, only the study of society. And here, sociologists study the interrelationship between individuals, organizations, cultures, and society. So within society, there are so many realities, social realities. So some of these social realities are mentioned by writers and scholars of different books. So this is why they have that. And so on. And this is the typical definition of that. So now, sociology benefit from various other its own focus of study. So on the basis of our understanding of the above keywords, how do you define Islamic perspective of sociology? So after we have done a little bit of exercise, I would like to have this, but however, I will reserve this. Maybe later on you can try. You can bring this question back to your back home, and maybe later on we can share your definition of Islamic perspective of sociology after understanding what is Islamic, what is perspective, what is sociology, and then you create your own definition. But for now, I just want to give you a tentative definition of Islamic perspective of sociology. That is systematic study. So I take out the word, find the word scientific to a certain understanding. So I use the word systematic because systematic can also include scientific and so on. So the tentative definition for now, systematic study of human society based on and inspired by the teachings of the divine revelation. So I give you this definition, tentative definition, but you can come up with your own definition. You can also improve this definition. You can have, you can comment on this definition. So in the next class, we will be able to see how much we can improve in terms of prescriptive definition, one sentence definition, because within that we have to elaborate. Elaboration will focus on few points, but for now, Islamic perspective of sociology, we are referring to systematic study of human society based on, but not only based on, but also inspired by the teachings of the divine revelation. This include what you have mentioned, the Quran, the Sunnah, right? And so on. So you can replace divine revelation with the Quran and Sunnah. You can also, so this one is what I have, this one is my student's definition, collective definition, the class definition. So you can comment on that. So the question, whatever definition that we have about Islamic perspective, the question is how such kind of sociology, that is knowledge of society based on and inspired by the teachings of Islam, be conceived, be developed, and be applied. I think this is has asked us about the case in Ghana, for example. It is not a very straightforward case. So it has a number of variables that need to be considered. So our subsequent classes will deal with this last question, that is Islamic perspective of sociology, how? Meaning that how we can conceive it, how we can develop it, and how we can apply it. I think this will take the next 3 classes, the last 3 classes, just to deal with the how. So with that, I end my presentation for tonight or this evening. I hand over to Brother Shahran. Sorry if I have taken time. Now it's already 9:53 Malaysian time. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, we welcome inputs, questions, or suggestion. Can raise hand or can write on chat as usual. Okay, Brother Idris there, I will mod. Brother Idris, can you unmute yourself? Okay. Sorry. I might double click as well. Okay, Brother Idris.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes,
Jazakumullah khairan, Prof. Based on my continuous studying of what you've been teaching us on this in the sociology, I tend to now realize that the perspective of everybody based on human society is different. The question I needed to ask now is, as human beings, we are, the way each and everybody is looking at us is different. Look at how employer looks at the employee. The employer that has Islamic orientation or the fear of Allah, we look at them on different entity, and the one that does not have, we look at it on different entity. If we find ourselves in a community that is not Islamic, how do we be able to fall in or to go in line with it, so that they won't say what we are introducing is different from the norms we met on ground. Especially in Nigeria, that it is not awesome Islamic country, it is a secular country. How could we be able to fit in the society we find ourselves, whereby it is not solely Islam, but people are bringing different perspective in handling people. For instance, if the company I'm working with now, I'm a boss and I have subordinates, there's a rule in which I have to deal with them. And in the real sense, the ruling, what they're giving to me is not wholly applied Islamically. How should I be able to blend this out? They won't say they've given me order and I did not follow the order that has been given to me.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brother Idris, from Nigeria?
Nigeria, yeah.
Oh, this is what you call this? From this the country of Brother Salihu,
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Thank you very much, brother. Very important question and very pertinent and relevant question. I agree with you that, like I did mention also in the previous classes, if you pose one question to people, if you have 100 people, they may have 100 answers. 100 answers. That is the nature of human being. Yeah, and Allah somehow has created human being as such. If it is only one, like Malaika, so then there is no problem. Yeah. As well, we could see even within Islamic tradition, the issue is not to have one perspective. The issue is not to have one perspective. The issue is how we are able to deal with the various perspectives among human beings. Yeah, Al-Quran, for example, not only perspective, even different religion. So the principle laid down in the Quran is very clear. For the purpose of keeping human being as human being in terms of interaction and also nature of relationship, yes, we cannot expect people to have only one religion, and this is mentioned in the Quran. If for example, I can, Allah said that I can make you one ummah, but that is not what is taking place. So therefore, one principle in dealing with other people, to you your religion, to us our religion. So that separate the lines, but this line is not a factor that create animosity and also unnecessary hard relationship between the believers and the non-believers. But respecting or recognizing the fact that you have different belief, I have different belief, that principle even happens or prevails among human beings of different belief. Of course, within people of the same belief, we have tradition in our history, intellectual history. If not because of the various opinions, we will not have mazahib. What is actually the reason behind the existence of various school of thought? The existence of various school of thought is due to the fact that different scholars have different opinions. But we cannot say, for example, Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali, and Hanafi, for example, they are having different opinions within the same ideology, But what we are stressing is how did they handle the different opinions that they have. I think Al-Marhum Taha Jamil Al-Awani has written a very good book on the ethics of disagreement, Adabul Ikhtilaf fil Islam. So that defines how the tasamuh the tolerance among those who are seeking for truth, and they can tolerate on the level of differences. Of our real life in contemporary time. I think this is a challenge, as I said also earlier on, that we are talking at the level of understanding. How we as Muslims try to understand society in the light of Quranic teaching. I think that is most important at the level of knowledge. In contradiction to what is prevailing, meaning that understanding of society is detached, is divorced from the creator of society. So I think we are dealing at the intellectual level, at the knowledge level. So if your understanding of society is like this, that is based purely on what can be seen, what can be measured, but we are saying that that is only half of that. That is only part of understanding the reality and the contributed by other sources. And in our case, divine revelation, the Quran, the Sunnah. So what cannot be explained by hard facts, hard social facts, might have to be facilitated in terms of that understanding from the other source. And in the context of Muslim, what you call belief, we are suggesting that society also needs to be understood in the broader context as informed by the Quran. Yes, the scientific, the objective, the hard fact, the objective study of what can be measured can prevail, and that is part of the holistic understanding of that. But to stop at that point is not enough. So now, back to what you have mentioned here, we are not going to force other people to follow this perspective. Is number one. Number two is, with the better understanding of what society is, we can play our role of to what and how society can be made better. Talk about social justice, for example. Yeah, if social justice is defined in terms of what can benefit the people in terms of fulfilling the utilitarian needs, I think that is too limited in terms of our definition of development, our definition of advancement, and our definition of justice. You may not be counting, for example, people's what you call this, emotion, people's preference for spirituality, inclination towards fulfilling their religious duties in order to gain what? To gain happiness, to gain peace of mind. Because so I think the concept of work, the concept of aim of work, the concept of development can always be a good issues for discourse, even at our workplace. And of course, we don't what you call force people to subscribe to our understanding. But what we are saying is that in addition to what people understand and work on, we are having sometimes alternative, sometimes the improved version of what we are doing. So it doesn't have to be forcing people. It doesn't have to be making us what you call this, making us but in the meantime, we are also looking at rooms for improvement. When we talk about how, later on, I will mention about 22 modes of dealing with modern sociology, or with knowledge of society. 22 modes, including the lowest one is accepting what is good, even if it comes from the non-Muslim. So if that can be applied in a context of our workplace, for example, are there no, are there not many good things that we are doing? Of course, any good things are acceptable. So one of the tasks that we have to do is accepting what is good, what is beneficial. Yeah? And then, of course, certainly I cannot leave enough for me to say that if you cannot do all, don't leave all. There are always rooms for us to do in our workplace in order to make things better. But most important thing is, as I said to the question, in response to the question in the last thing, knowing our context is very important. Antum a'lamu bi umuri dunyakum. You know better your situation. But that situation sometimes needs to be understood by facilitating ourselves with data. In the absence of data, which is sociological way of collecting information, we sometimes act in a very unfounded manner. So, in short, I understand that Muslims want to practice Islam as much as possible, but in the way that is possible within that particular context. Yeah? Wallahu a'lam.
Thank you so much, Prof. We have 3 very good questions. Maybe next class you can highlight it. I just read it very fast.
Okay.
Of course, from Brother Nuruddin. It's a very perfect question. I want to ask, based on Islamic perspective, can we say is society a reality? Because in contemporary sociology, there is a debate whether society is really a reality. Thank you. And then from Brother Tayyab Osmani, anthropology, sociology, and Islam have their own ontologies. So how can we engage them in our contemporary Islamic studies? And the last one from Brother Asadul Ghalib, we are talking about Islamization of sphere of secular knowledge, including law, sociology, and economics. Doesn't it broaden the scope of Islamization of some or many other things such as democracy? So these are all big questions. Maybe next classes, Prof can highlight a bit, inshallah. Okay, Prof, final word for tonight.
Are they all in the
chat? In the chat.
Very good. Yeah. Very, yeah. We have to be dealing with philosophy now, eh?
And then next class, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Okay, Prof, parting word for tonight, inshallah.
Okay, thank you very much to all of you, and I am very happy to have interaction with you. Ultimately, let us correct our intention, as I did mention in the last class. Our aim is only one, to try to reach the truth as much as possible. And therefore, in addition to establishing the good niyyah, we also need to think of what would be our goal. The goal, particularly in this world, is as much as possible, we want to correct our understanding of religion, correct our understanding of the concept of knowledge, so that with the proper conceptualization and understanding of all this, we hope to be able also to contribute towards reconstructing civilization based on genuine and noble values. Wallahu alam. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. See you, Prof, next week, and everyone also, inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.